Everybody, Benefit for the Better podcast, and I've got an editorial video for you today. So I've been looking at other games, other game designs, what's going on out there, and it's really made me consider what I look for in a game. But more importantly, actually, it's made me consider what really turns me off when I look at a game. If I look at a game and I like cool models, then I look at the rules and I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. Then it made me think, actually, could I put together a list? And rather than do a top 5 Friday and waste the top 5 Friday on this, I thought I'd put together the 7 deadly sins of wargames design. All right, first things first, this is my list. Now, I did talk to the lads, the Wobble lads, the Bonehead podcast lads about it, to kind of just make sure I didn't miss anything from it. And some of this is going to really upset some of you, and some of it I'm quite happy to be like, I'm wrong about this. Some of these actually feature in Blood Bowl, which is my favourite tabletop game. So one thing I will say is that all of these can be done a little bit and have it work, except for one, which I think is just shocking. But yes, all of these can be taken with a bit of pinch of salt. All of these, when applied cleverly, could probably work. And some of these are actually available in pretty good war games. But anyway, onwards to my top 7. All right, there's 7. 7 is a lot, but you know what also is a lot? Tokens. Using too many tokens in a war game. Now, tokens can be really useful. We play Blood Bowl and, you know, undeniably having a stunned or prone token for one of your big guys is pretty useful. Along with a Bonehead token, maybe some take root. Okay, but it's not a lot, right? Tokens are great for making sure that the game state is kept super clear for everybody. And that I do love. Blood Bowl does that really well, right? You can look at the tabletop and you pretty much know what's going on. You can tell from the state of the game, like really quickly, just from looking at it. But any game that I pick up that's basically got more than 1 token per unit per turn, I start getting a little bit like, oh, is this really necessary? Now, there are some games out there that do this really well. Okay, so Epic Warpath has got 1 token for every unit. You deploy it, it's a secret order kind of thing, and it works, I think, really well. Like, that is manageable. But when you've got, like, this guy is prone, and this guy is hiding, and this guy is slightly hungry, and this guy doesn't agree with your political stance, it's kind of like, why this is a lot of token, then take the token away, turn the token away, flip it up. I'm like, shut up. Like, what are we doing? Like, this is a miniatures game. This should be about the miniatures and the look and the feel of this game, whether you're playing a sports game like Blood Bowl or a war game. Like, Kill Team is probably a really good example of this. Now, I don't want to judge Kill Team because the new edition works really well. It's a really good game. It's really popular. But for me, the thing that makes me blanch at the sight of it is like this token and this token and this token and this token. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot going on there. It kind of ruins the look of the game a bit. But also, it sets a real barrier to entry. Because if you want to do a thing and you've lost that token, or you want to play it, you have to specifically buy those tokens. It's a bit of a bump. So yeah, my first one, millions of tokens. Okay, this one, yeah, this one probably should be higher for me, but whatever. Okay, so we're talking about the look and feel of these games. And one thing that all miniature war games, all miniature war games kind of is the look. All right, I've got cool models. We do this because we like cool models, whether they're Blood Bowl guys, whether they are ships, whether they are alien beasts fighting mecha, like, it doesn't matter. We play these games because we love how they look. We love building them, painting them, and just the vibe, right? We're directors of this movie. True line of sight is a mechanic that makes me throw up in my mouth when I read it. And there's kind of like, all right, let's be hypercritical here. True line of sight is a mechanic where you actually get down to eye view and you use a laser pointer potentially to see if you can see any part of that model that you're attacking from the model you're attacking with. Like, okay, first of all, a super lazy game design. Like, that's super lazy. You, as a game designer, you are taking no ownership of anything there. You're like, well, if you can see him, you can shoot him. That's like, okay, so what if I'm using models are representational, okay? So if you've got a forest, like, if that one branch is slightly to the left, all of a sudden you can see a model. It's like, it's a little bit too pernickety, perhaps. But the biggest thing here for True Line of Sight, which really upsets me, is when you've got modelling for advantage, but more importantly, when it restricts modelling for disadvantage. So if you've got a cool model in a cool pose and you give it a cool base, you are penalised because there's more of that model to be seen, therefore that model can be seen easier. Like, oh, I put a cloak on him. Well, now you can see the cloak around the corner of this building because I modelled it swooshy and cool, and now you can attack me. Absolute trash tier mechanic. Absolutely hate it. The cool thing about some of the older games and like one-page rules is they use kind of like, you've got different options, so you can be a laser pointer man. That's cool. But if you can kind of use the representational one, so like you've got area terrain, you can't see through the area terrain because that's fine. The thing is, True Line of Sight brings about this thing where people stop modeling cool stuff to look cool because it detracts away from the game, and then you end up with the L-shaped ruins disaster that is in 40k. So yeah, this one I think I hate more than some of the others. It should be higher. True Line of Sight. The next one for me is non-model based rules. And when I put this in the chat, Ben was like, what the heck do you mean by that? Well, if you are familiar with stuff like 40k and things like this, stratagems. Now, what I mean succinctly is rules that have got very little to nothing to do with the models that are on the pitch, that are actually on and in the game. Now, this is probably the first one where there's a little bit of like, actually, some of this is really good, okay? But when you've got a game going on, having a little bit of something else, maybe it's like a spell list or, you know, a tactic or rerolls is kind of like that in Blood Bowl, like where it's not actually a model, but it affects the way the models play. That's cool. But if you've got books and books where you're like, right, I've built this list because I can then use this from here and this from here, and it's just a whole bunch of stuff that's got nothing to do with the models, it really takes away the immersion. It really destroys the immersion because it's like, ah, cool, I can shoot this guy with this guy. Well, yeah, but actually I've got this thing that means I can't do this, and it's this thing over here, and it's got nothing to do with the model. It's got some, I've paid 1 CP to use this rule from here, and actually we're playing in this zone and this happens. In Blood Bowl, there's a couple of things that work really well. There are some inducements you can use, there's a wizard you can use. Pitch rules I think are a really good example of, I mean, let's be fair, if any of you out there have played Blood Bowl and you've started using pitch rules before, there'll be a point where you probably forget about the pitch rules. And now imagine that you'd chosen the pitch rules, you'd had to choose the pitch rules, and they were going to come up and be like, boom, actually, I've got different pitch rules for you. It's just, it overcomplicates it, and it really takes away from the fact that you've got a battle or a game going on out here with models you've put together, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff over here that is just written down and it affects the game. It's a whole bunch of mental load that I don't think adds much. It adds complexity, but it also adds complexity. All right, next up, and I don't think I'm going to have any arguments with this one. Custom measurements. So if you've got a tape measure near you, you will have probably 2 things on them, centimeters and inches. I don't really care which one you use. I'm an old school Warhammer player, so inches feels right when playing a war game, but actually those games that use centimeters, not a problem at all. Battlefleet Gothic kind of brought this in, right? You got the ships, they're flying around at 20, 25, 30 centimeters, and it just works. It's fine. It's a distance. We're used to measuring things in real life. Like, it's just kind of a thing. I don't mind squares. I don't mind squares, I don't mind hexes. Like, Blood Bowl works brilliantly because there isn't any wibbly wobbly measuring shenanigans, okay? You've got the squares, it works really well. But there's not a huge amount of measury wibbly wobbly arguments caused by, you know, being able to move 12 inches. It doesn't cause that much of an issue. What does cause an issue is if for some reason the game you are playing decides to use something like a card or a template that is just not representational of any sort of measurement. So it's kind of like you are creating a barrier to entry, and this is for me. So I'm looking at a game like, oh, I love these models. How does the game play? You got to use these measuring sticks to move them, but it doesn't actually say what the measuring sticks are. I want to be able to use a tape measure because I'm measuring a distance. Just use the tape measure. Like, don't be like, ah, this man, he's faster because he moves 7 triangles and a wibbly wobbly circle and a purple green triangle, which means he can move that. I'm just, what are you saying? Like, do you mean 9 inches? Do you mean, right, you've got 3 yellow triangles. If each yellow triangle is 3, why not just write 9? Like, just write 9. It's a number. I get the number. My daughter can count to the number. We're good with the numbers. So for me, custom measurement stuff is just unnecessary, I think, and it just creates a bigger barrier to entry than I think actually just not using it. Oh, okay, number 3 is gonna be a shocker, and I cannot wait to hear what you think about this one. Custom dice. Yes, block dice in Blood Bowl are just the best, right? Pows, skulls, pushes. It's so intuitive, it works, it's just visceral, and it makes a lot of sense. But generally, if I'm looking at a game and it's got custom dice, very similarly to custom measurements, it makes me stop for a second. And there's kind of a couple of different things. One is the fact that you're going to have to buy these dice. Like, even the custom measurements thing, like if you can figure out that a yellow triangle is 3 and a brown square is 4, okay, you can kind of translate that and use a tape measure and everything's fine. But if you don't have the special dice, you can't play the game, and that is a really interesting one, because let's face it, when it comes to wargaming, the amount of time we spend playing the game is significantly less to the amount of time we think about playing the game or want to play the game. And if you're like, I can't even play this game because I haven't got my dice, it takes away that kind of like, I'm going to start playing this, how am I going to play it, how does this look, what does this, just I don't know what these dice do. I can see on the map, but it's fine, and you can absolutely reverse track them. So the block dice is a great example. 1 skull, 2 both down, 3 4 push, 5 pow, 6 pow star. Okay, you can translate it out. When you've got one style and it's used for one specific thing, I think that's you can reverse track it and you can learn it. But when it comes to those games, and there's a couple kicking out, you've got Warcry, you've got Warcry is probably the one that comes to mind. Dystopian Wars as well, where there's does Dystopian Wars use different types of dice? I think it uses just the one type of special dice, but Warcry uses different colored dice, like old school Hero Quest, which is cool, right? But you're then having to translate, because like I've got an orange dice and a red dice and a blue dice. In one sense, that's a really good way of being able to have variable hits and variable damage and variable impact and variable successes from those dice. But the other way, it is another barrier to entry, and you've got to learn it, and you've got to kind of be that, you've got to have that intuitive learn of like, okay, red is better than blue in this game because. So custom dice are one of those ones that can work brilliantly. And I mean brilliantly. I don't think Blood Bowl would be as good if it didn't have custom dice, but you've got to be very careful with it because it creates a barrier to entry and it creates another learning barrier as well. Okay, this one, I'm going to shame some games because this is, I think, wildly unnecessary. And I know that it works and that there's some logic there, but I cannot stomach this mechanic. And I'm having a bit of a rage about some of this stuff, but okay. In life, there is this theory that more is better. Higher numbers are better. More of something is better. Bigger is better. Like, it just as far as the gradient goes, more and higher makes, like, that is kind of up. Up is good, right? Down is bad. So there are games out there. Conquest is one of them, and Argatoria broke my heart, where you want to roll low instead of high. And it's that simple. And it's a really interesting thing because it just puts me off immediately, and I shall tell you for why. Because there's no reason for it. There's no reason at all. You may think, well, I get it, like what they're trying to do is they're like, oh, my guy is skill 3, so I can roll up to a 3. Skill 5 is better than skill 3, so therefore if I roll, and as long as I get under the skill, like, that works. Okay, cool. But addition solves that for you. So if you are making a game or playing a game where it's reverse and you want to roll ones, no one wants to roll ones. You should never want to roll ones. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. It's wrong. Okay? It's wrong. It's just all kinds of wrong. If you've got skill 2 and you want skill 2 to be worse than skill 3, just add your skill to the die roll and change a target number. Like, it's not difficult. So in the example of like, okay, my unit is skill 2, so you want to roll 1s and 2s, just add that to your die roll and be like, ah, you're fishing for sixes, but you're adding your skill. I appreciate the maths on that one slightly ajar. What I would do in that card, skill 1 would be skill 0. So you roll a dice and you add 0 and you need a 6. Your skill 2, great, that's great. That means you're getting 6s on basically 4, 5s and 6s. You're rolling a dice and adding 2 to your roll and you're looking for 6s. Like, it's way, way more intuitive. And the only reason games do that is generally to be different. And I find that while it's important to always respect things that are different, because being different can be great, being different for the sake of being different is often not particularly useful. And this kind of one just well upsets me, and is the main reason Ben was like, oh, Conquest, look at the great models. I'm like, great models, look at the great rules, they're great rules, but you got to roll 1s and 2s. I'm like, get out of my house. Yeah, okay, so I've had a bit of a rage about that, and I think you should agree with me, because it's just wrong, isn't it? Right, the last one. This is the biggest one on my list. We've hit a couple of nuggets here where there's some juicy ones that I get a bit fiery about. But this is the biggest sin, I think, in all gaming ever. Any game that's core mechanic relies on a roll-off just needs to get in the bin. There are caveats to that, where there are sometimes a roll-off is the right thing, but a roll-off, even though you can both add different modifiers to your own individual dice, is nothing more than a glorified coin flip. Okay, maybe I'll roll higher than you. Cool. Do you want to just flip a coin? I get that there's a bit of gradation there, but that is just a lazy mechanic. I really hate it, and this is something that killed Legions Imperialis for me when they dropped it and they were like, yeah, and then you do combat, and what you do is you take one guy and the other guy and you both roll dice and whoever's highest wins. I'm like, shh, no, there's 20 guys in that. You want to roll off 20 times and just see who rolls the highest? What the heck? That's not a game, that's just chance. Like, why don't you just not worry about the models and roll dice and be like, oh, I beat you at rolling? No, absolute no. Okay, so there's some points, like I said, it's kind of representation of a coin flip. So at the beginning of a Blood Bowl game, at the beginning of a game, to randomize something, fantastic. Like, who's going to get the kick? Let's roll off. Who's going to do this? Roll off. Even like a bit of an advantage for like, okay, I get +1 to this for the roll off to decide a thing. But if you're doing this every single time for attacks, for saves, for anything like that, it just, I personally am not a fan. It adds a lot of time, it adds a lot of just both of you rolling, and I think it slows it down, and it's just so unsatisfying because you're like, oh cool, this big attack, oh, I just rolled all 2s and you rolled 3s, so you win the game. Like, I appreciate that dice are gonna do that to you, but you know, maybe I roll bad dice and I don't get the hits. What that means is my opponent then doesn't need to roll the dice for saves. We've saved a step. Or I roll well, they're rolling against their target number, and it's just cleaner. It involves less hand wavy, wibbly wobbly randomness, and I think that's it. I think it's the randomness that kills me for it. And like I said, there's some good examples of this. There are some good examples of this, but it's where they've done a really good job of also having a target number. So Infinity does this brilliantly. You make opposed rolls using D20, but you're individually looking for your target success number. In fact, Infinity actually rolls lower, which, kind of one of those ones where it just sort of works. Oh yeah, I don't like that, but are you rolling lower or are you rolling higher? I can't remember how this works. All I know is that you are trying to roll higher than your opponent and also hit your target number. So if your opponent rolls higher but doesn't hit their target number, then their dice doesn't count. And if you roll lower but do hit your target number, your roll still counts, but if you both hit your target number, the higher roll wins as kind of like a tiebreaker. That's probably about as far as I will go. There is another mechanic in Kings of War Dungeon Saga, which is sort of like Risk, and it just, I find it woefully unfulfilling. Okay, so I roll my 3 dice, you roll your 3 dice, and then we compare whose dices were higher, and I'm just like, this is yeah, not the best for me. So roll off as a core mechanic, you can have it once or twice a game if there's something cool going on. But generally speaking, I just think it's a waste of time. It's too random and I cannot abide it. All right, so those are my 7 deadly sins of wargaming. I am absolutely intrigued to know which of these you disagree with, which you do agree with, and which I've missed off my list that you find appalling that I actually apparently have not thought about, or am I okay with. It's an interesting list and it was an interesting experiment because there's a lot of stuff that they do in games, and I think the message here is enjoy the game you enjoy, and a little of something bad can make something really good, okay? Salted caramel cake. A little bit of salt on a cake makes it pop. A lot of salt will kill you, like opposed dice rolls and rolling low. Get out. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back soon with more wargaming content. Happy blocking. No, happy rolling, but don't roll low. Roll high.